A new college year begins. While everybody reunites and exchanges small talk with their friends, Sakurai walks alone, enjoying the sight looking like spring. But he is interrupted and approached by the vivacious Hana Yuzaki, whom he knew in high school. As they walk, Yuzaki starts bombarding Sakurai with questions which he answers nonchalantly. Of course, Yuzaki noticed many times before how Sakurai spends his time alone without anyone to talk to, which is why she decides to hound him. The next day, Yuzaki approaches him again, asks him to hang out and declares the end of his loner lifestyle. At the end of his day, Sakurai leaves school now that there's nothing on his schedule. From the end of the corridor, Yuzaki calls him aloud as she runs towards him, knocking him to the ground, infuriating him. Yuzaki asks him out for lunch, but Sakurai declines and walks away. Yuzaki follows him, exasperating him, and insists on keeping him company. Sakurai retorts that he finds spending his time alone is more relaxing and tells her to beat it. Yuzaki persists and keeps asking him out until she lashes out outside in front of everybody, misleading them into thinking that Sakurai is a girl hater, thus leaving him with no choice but to agree. Sakurai takes her to the movies, where Yuzaki mocks the kind of movies he watches, prompting him to squeeze her nose. Afterwards, the two then go to the mall, where Yuzaki makes a weird noise trying a massage chair, causing Sakurai to blush. Sakurai decides that enough is enough and takes her somewhere else. Yuzaki then tries a virtual reality game and accidentally smacks Sakurai with the controller. The two then try baseball. Even though he had experience doing it in junior high school, Sakurai has grown quite rusty at it. Yuzaki then gives it a try and gets hit hard by the ball. At dinner, Yuzaki keeps getting on Sakurai's nerves as she eats all the chicken he ordered, leaving him with nothing but a half-eaten piece. The next day, Yuzaki approaches him and asks him to hang out once more. Sakurai refuses, but agrees after deciding that he can put up with her a little. Later, in a cafe where Sakurai works part-time, Yuzaki stops by, irritating him. Not knowing what the hell Yuzaki is doing here, Sakurai tells her to leave and pull her embarrassing shenanigans elsewhere. Looking at Yuzaki's short stature, Sakurai's boss mistakes her for an elementary school student, much to her anger, much to Sakurai's amusement. After Sakurai serves her a glass of water, Yuzaki embarrasses him and complains to the owner about his cold attitude as a waiter, infuriating him, amusing the owner. Given Sakurai's skillfulness in dealing with customers, the owner just tells him to act normal like he always does and show Yuzaki his skills as a waiter. Sakurai complies and nicely asks if he can have her order. Seeing Sakurai uncharacteristically smiling, Yuzaki bursts out laughing, prompting him to kick her out. Barely able to hold his laughter, the owner tells Sakurai to call it a day and walk Yuzaki home. The next day, Yuzaki catches Sakurai trying to pet a stray cat. Being a cat lover, she teaches him how to do that properly. Not long after, the cat runs away. Yuzaki chases it and finds it hiding in the bushes. Yuzaki leaps to catch the cat but fails, as the cat gets away and she gets stuck. In order to pull her out, Sakurai has no choice but to grab her hips. At the wrong time and at the wrong place, two ladies happen to pass by and get the wrong idea about what Sakurai is doing, which is why they immediately flee the scene. After pulling her out, Yuzaki thanks him. But Sakurai is down in the dumps, hoping the earth would swallow him whole after this awkward situation. At school, Yuzaki learns Sakurai will be meeting up with a friend. Yuzaki wants to know who that friend is, but Sakurai tells her to get lost after that awkward situation. As he has lunch with his friend, Yuzaki acts weird and bombards him with text messages. At the cafe, the owner treats Sakurai to a cup of coffee and talks to him about his slacking daughter who's also a college student. Sakurai enjoys the soothing jazz music and the coffee aroma, but Yuzaki walks in and spoils his moment once more. Yuzaki asks him to help her finish her report, which Sakurai refuses. Enjoying the back and forth between them, the owner tells Sakurai to help her since there are no customers. As she writes her report, the owner serves them 2 cups of coffee and sandwiches for free. Since Sakurai's place is close to campus, Yuzaki asks to sleep in his place. To Sakurai, it's a no-no because everybody hearing about her sleeping at his place will not bode well for him. Yuzaki insists on the matter, infuriating Sakurai, causing him to lash out at her. Enjoying the scene, the owner can't help but laugh at the two bickering. Moreover, he wants to see more of the two as they bicker together, which is why he decides to keep Sakurai around by giving him a raise. The next day, Sakurai becomes the crush of the owner's daughter, Ami, who obsesses over his body. Yuzaki stops by, greets her dad and borrows a game from Sakurai, much to Ami's shock. Ami gets to know Yuzaki, who tells her that she's good friends with Sakurai and that she's just looking out for him. The owner tells his daughter to just sit back and watch the thrill of those two interacting. As Sakurai serves her water, Yuzaki bumps into him, knocking him to the floor, spilling ice water all over him. Enjoying the scene of the two bickering, Ami decides to take more shifts. The next day, Yuzaki stops by the cafe to find Sakurai took the day off. It turns out Sakurai has got a cold and called in sick. Somebody rings the bell. It's Yuzaki. As he wonders what the hell she wants, Sakurai feels a bit lightheaded and faints. Yuzaki takes care of him, makes him a soup and gives him some medicine. The next day, Ami and her father invite the bickering duo to dinner, celebrating Sakurai's recovery. While Yuzaki goes to the bathroom, Sakurai explains there's nothing between him and her as she's just a girl. Yuzaki returns to find Sakurai calling Ami by her first name, which excites Yuzaki's jealousy. At school, Yuzaki tries hypnotizing him into doing whatever she wants. Sakurai plays along. Yuzaki makes him uncomfortable and has him call her by her first name multiple times, which he does, making him sound like a love dummy in front of everybody. Yuzaki pushes her luck and tries making him do more things, but Sakurai has had enough as he lashes out at her. Yuzaki tells him she just didn't like how he called Ami by her first name, about which Sakurai apologizes, telling her he's not comfortable calling girls by their first names. Ami just wanted him to do that for work only. Sakurai accidentally hypnotizes her with the 5 yen, causing him to freak out and go through the hypnosis guidebook she's been carrying. The Golden Week arrives, where the Japanese enjoy multiple holidays. The cafe owner will be going on a family trip, so the cafe will be closed. With nothing to do or nowhere to go, Sakurai spends 3 days playing video games non-stop. Yuzaki stops and asks to hang out and play Darum and Go. Even though Sakurai has had it with her, he decides to go out since he's dying of boredom. Outside, Sakurai has a hard time staring at the screen, since his eyes hurt from gaming at home for 3 days straight. Yuzaki decides to buy him some glasses and to take him to the optical store. There, they run into Ami, who helps them browse the store. The two girls have him try on many pairs of glasses, making him look like a mafioso as they die laughing at him. The two then hop on a train that soon gets crowded with people, pressing Sakurai against Yuzaki, making him feel so intensely self-conscious that he blacks out afterwards. Reaching their stop, Yuzaki walks out of the train to find Sakurai out cold while on his feet. She tries calling him, but it's too late as the door closes and he can't hear Yuzaki calling him. Sakurai finds himself at a stopway past his, as he wonders where he is and checks his phone to find a dozen missed calls from Yuzaki. The next day, Sakurai tells Ami and her father of what happened. Given that Yuzaki invited him along, Ami advises him to follow up with her. At school, Sakurai finds Yuzaki taking a nap while muttering his name. Sakurai talks to her while she's sleeping, but Yuzaki snaps awake, startled. Following Ami's advice, Sakurai invites her over to his home. The weather changes as it starts pouring. Sakurai hopes Yuzaki won't show up. Just then, she rings the bell, only she's drenched in rain. Sakurai lends her some of his clothes. The two then cook together, play together, and have all the fun they could have. Later on, Sakurai is trying to rescue a cat from falling, but the cat leaps to safety, causing Sakurai to fall off the roof. Sakurai snaps awake to find Yuzaki laughing at him. Yuzaki starts bugging him about it, but the psychology class starts where the professor talks about interpreting dreams and explains the dream of falling from a height which reflects anxiety. After class, Yuzaki keeps bugging Sakurai about it until she trips down the stairs. Sakurai saves her and terrifies her with the thought of developing climacophobia, that is, fear of climbing the stairs after tripping down them multiple times, which scares the crap out of her. Later on that day, Sakurai runs into his friend Sakaki, whom he hasn't seen in a while. After Sakaki talks about his life, he lashes out at Sakurai for being alone all the time and not having a girlfriend. Yuzaki interrupts and starts bickering with Sakurai. Sakaki takes a keen interest in the two. Therefore, Sakaki later on tries to meddle in the relationship, irritating Sakurai. Exasperated, Sakurai leaves and takes Yuzaki for some ice cream. Just after they leave, Ami confronts Sakaki on what he's doing. A quarrel starts between the two. Meanwhile, the bickering duo sits in the park as Yuzaki enjoys her Chocomint, which Sakurai compares to toothpaste, which infuriates Yuzaki, who throws a fit about how it's one's duty to love Chocomint. Hearing the speech, the onlookers all around give her a round of applause, shocking Sakurai. Sakurai apologizes and agrees to have a taste of this chocolate despite himself. The next day, Yuzaki is hired as a waiter at the cafe, much to Sakurai's chagrin. Sakurai teaches her how to wait tables and deal with customers, but, again, the two start quarreling. Not wanting to leave Sakurai alone for the summer break, Yuzaki suggests going to the beach, which Sakurai finds a good idea. Sakaki walks in and decides to tag along. There, they play the watermelon pinata and blindfold Sakurai, while the others guide him and overwhelm him with their endless instructions. At night, Sakaki takes them to his summer home, where Sakaki decides to camp on the back hills. On the way there, Sakaki reveals they'll be playing a test of courage, which Sakurai ardently refuses since he doesn't like horror games. Yuzaki taunts him about his fear, snatches his phone and runs away with it, tantalizing Sakurai, who chases her. This didn't go the way Sakaki expected, which is why he goes after them. While doing so, Sakaki explains he just wanted to set the perfect conditions where the relationship of the two can grow into something more interesting. He just wants Sakurai to enjoy his life. Much to their shock, they find Sakurai stricken with fear from the dark, with Yuzaki comforting him. Sasaki decides to call it off and takes them all back to the house where they spend the night. Later on one morning, Yuzaki gets a call from Sakurai urgently asking her to meet him. Much to her surprise, Sakurai wanted to go to the cat cafe, and he can't bring himself to go in alone. Angry, Yuzaki kicks him in the leg multiple times. Wanting so bad to pet a cat, Sakurai immediately asks the owner if he's allowed to touch them. Sakurai strokes the cats and gently speaks to them, which Yuzaki finds creepy. Sakurai then thanks her for showing up and asks how he can make it up to her. Yuzaki reveals her 20th birthday is nearing. Sakurai interrupts her and apologizes in what sounds like an emotional moment because his legs feel numb due to the cat sitting on his lap. Yuzaki tortures him by poking his feet, prompting the owner to kick them out. Following that, Yuzaki reminds him of her birthday for which she has high hopes. Sakurai starts thinking about what to give her on her birthday. Ami advises that he listen to his intuition on this matter. Sakurai browses the stores for a gift but doesn't find anything worthwhile. Yuzaki calls him urgently asking him to meet her. It's a pub. Yuzaki just couldn't bring herself to go in there alone, and she wants Sakurai to tag along since today is her 20th birthday. There, the two drink beer, and Yuzaki orders everything she can since Sakurai will be paying. As he walks the drunken Yuzaki home, he tries calling an Uber, but his wallet is empty, which is why he's going to have to put up with her for the night. At home, Sakurai tries to get some sleep, while Yuzaki tries getting him to play with her. Sakurai pretends to be asleep and ignores her. She tries kissing him but he freaks out and tells her to shut up and go to sleep already, since it's 3 in the morning. The next day, Yuzaki wakes up hungover as she vomits. Sakurai has her rest and tells her the bigger the screw up, the bigger the lesson. Yuzaki regrets drinking. Yuzaki thanks him for being with her at the pub. As Sakurai wishes her happy birthday, she vomits again, ruining Sakurai's futon. The next day, Yuzaki apologizes for ruining Sakurai's futon and gives him an envelope of cash from her mother for compensation, which Sakurai refuses but angrily takes after Yuzaki's insistence. At the cafe, Sakurai opens up about what happened between him and Yuzaki and tears up. He also tells them about the ruined futon. The owner gives him a ticket to a festival, as his daughter intimidates him, ordering him to invite Yuzaki to patch things up. At the festival, the two have all the fun they can and eat everything they can. However, Yuzaki is still upset about the futon thing. Wanting to cheer her up and put a smile back on her face, Sakurai follows Ami's advice and compliments Yuzaki. It does work as Yuzaki starts talking non-stop about the effort she put in preparing for this day. Sakurai compliments her more, but Yuzaki has had enough and accidentally knocks him out cold with her purse. Sakurai wakes up to find himself in Yuzaki's lap. Sakurai then reminisces about everything that happened between him and her since they first met. Even though she was a pain in his ass, he went to many places and had the fun that he never had before in his whole life, for which Sakurai is thankful. Yuzaki teases him about keeping him company in the summer break. Sakurai happily tells her to be his guest. Just then, the fireworks start, which the two enjoy watching. The next day, Sakurai decides to return the money to Yuzaki's mother. After Sakurai meets Suki, Yuzaki's mother, Suki feels intimidated by his glare and stature. After Sakurai tells her of his intention to return some of the money she gave him, Suki takes a shine by his gentle manners. After they talk about the situation, Suki berates her daughter for sleeping in a guy's place. Sakurai stares at the cat in Suki's lap. Suki starts thinking Sakurai is looking at her body, which is quite unnerving. Tusky stops by the cafe, where she privately inquires whether Sakurai is interested in older and married women, shocking Ami and her father. Later on, Sakurai loses a game to Yuzaki. Yuzaki energetically asks him to go buy her something now that she's the winner. The next day at the cafe, Yuzaki behaves politely towards Sakurai, which Sakurai finds irritating. Preferring the loud and usual Yuzaki, Sakurai apologizes. Irritated, Yuzaki lashes out. The two get into a heated argument until a customer butts in, berates them and gives them a lottery ticket to make up. Soon after, the two use that lottery ticket and win a trip to Tottori. When they step foot in there, they encounter Ami and Sakaki. It turns out, Ami and Sakaki have been watching over them all this time and they're planning to make Yuzaki and Sakurai's relationship something bigger than a friendship. After the two race at the Tottori beach, a couple approaches and asks Sakurai to take a picture for them. Afterwards, the group visits Japan's oldest circular school that turned into a museum where they see many figures and pictures. At the Hakuto Shrine, the two learn that Tottori is the best destination for couples. Much to Yuzaki and Sakurai's frustration, Ami and Sakaki confirm that they planned it to make the two sound like a couple. After this disappointment, Sakurai tells Yuzaki not to care whether anyone else thinks they're a couple and just enjoy their time in Tottori while they still can. Later on, Yuzaki comes to Sakurai's, who starts berating her for leaving her stuff and phone chargers all over the place. After tidying the place up, Yuzaki cooks a meal, which Sakurai enjoys and makes him apologize for berating her. At the cafe, Sakurai tries cooking but fails as the dish turns out to be a disaster, prompting Yuzaki's loud laughter. That is why he decides to take a crash course in cooking from Yuzaki's mom. Later on, Sakurai is at a karaoke bar. Before he can sing, he's caught by Ami and Yuzaki, who start annoying him about it, making him want to go home instead. To cheer Sakurai up, the two girls start wearing outfits, making him flustered. Later on, a depressed Yuzaki stops by Sakurai's and tells him she can't hang out with him anymore. Sakurai tries talking her down and asks why. It turns out, Yuzaki did something that can't be undone and forgot to write the report she had as homework for the summer break. Exasperated, Sakurai just shuts the door. At the cafe, the owner tries lifting a box but injures his back while doing so. Ami decides to run the place temporarily, while the owner gets a back massage at the clinic. Yuzaki reminisces about the first time she met Sakurai way earlier when she first joined the swimming club during high school. She was frightened by his piercing look when he first introduced himself. As Yuzaki reminisces more about it, Ami notes she started talking slangy like him, upsetting her and causing her to storm out. The next day, Yuzaki schemes with Sasaki to get Sakurai to drink. Therefore, Yuzaki stops by Sakurai's place and leaves the door a little open behind her, unbeknownst to Sakurai. They have chili shrimp for dinner. Yuzaki pours him some beer, which Sakurai loses himself drinking thanks to Yuzaki's distractions from her constant talking to playing video games. Now Sakurai is drunk and mental defenses are zero as he can barely feel Yuzaki poking his cheek. While drunk, Sakurai commends Yuzaki for her cooking. Yuzaki insists that he give her his honest opinion. Sakurai misleads her into thinking he's in love with her rather than her cooking. Shocked, Yuzaki starts drinking as much beer cans as she can to forget what she heard. Sasaki walks in the apartment and tells Sakurai to go back to his futon, which he mindlessly does. He does the same with Yuzaki. The next morning, the two awake to find themselves sleeping in the same futon, which is traumatizing. As they recount everything that happened between them, the two can't remember anything at all. The only thing they can remember is sleeping in the same futon, which is quite shocking to Ami and her dad. Later on, the summer break is over. On the way to college, Yuzaki asks if Sakurai would like to hang out next summer. Sakurai tells her he'll gladly hang out with her, whenever and wherever.